Have you ever stopped and wondered how something truly beautiful can come from just absolute chaos? Or how a profound loss can, against all odds, become this source of incredible strength and creativity? Today, we're going to dive into that. We'll explore how resilience isn't just about getting through the storm, but about learning how to create right in the middle of it. And this line, wow, this is really the heart of everything we're talking about. It just perfectly captures that incredible transformation, a moment where this void of silence and total powerlessness becomes the very ground from which purpose starts to grow. It really sets the stage for a deeply human story. You know, every big idea has an origin story. And this one, well, it begins with a deeply personal story of loss. And it's set against a backdrop that, honestly, the entire world remembers all too well. This isn't just some abstract theory. It's a journey that was forged in a hospital room. So picture this. It's June 2020. The author's father, who's 84, is facing this terrifying cascade of health crises. A failing heart, diabetes, gangrene, all leading to a last-ditch amputation. Now, that procedure is daunting enough on its own, but it's the setting that changes everything. An ICU completely locked down by strict pandemic rules. The situation was already dire, but that isolation made it almost unbearable. And this wasn't something that happened in a flash. It was a slow, agonizing, 10-day vigil. You can just feel the agony in that timeline. I mean, can you imagine watching someone you love fade away through a pane of glass, hearing their life measured by the hum of a ventilator, and being completely unable to offer even the simple comfort of a touch? And that was the feeling at the core of it all. The author, who always saw themselves as their father's anchor, was rendered completely and totally helpless. It wasn't just grief. It was grief piled on top of the inability to act, to comfort, or to connect in those final sacred moments. And it was from that absolute powerlessness that something new just had to be born. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Because this deeply personal tragedy, it actually taps into a universal human theme. This impulse to create something from the ruins is a pattern we see repeated all through history, across all kinds of cultures. Chaos, it turns out, isn't just an ending. It can be an incredibly powerful catalyst. At the heart of this whole idea is this incredible tension. Just look at these pairings: despair and courage, loss and hope, ruin and creation. They aren't just opposites, they're almost like dance partners. Creative resilience, it seems, thrives in that space right between them, drawing its energy from their clash. And you see this everywhere. Picasso didn't just paint a battle. With Guernica, he painted the soul-crushing horror of war. During the pandemic, you had all these isolated singers forming virtual choirs, their harmony a direct answer to all that silence and separation. And right now in Ukraine, artists are painting these huge, vibrant murals on bombed-out buildings. It's an act of creation that basically spits in the face of destruction. This just puts it perfectly, doesn't it? Chaos isn't the final word. It's the raw material. It's the intense heat of the forge that allows us to hammer out something new, something meaningful, blending those clashing opposites into a single, radiant flame of creation. So if chaos is the forge, then what's going on inside of us? How exactly does a person transform that kind of overwhelming pain into a real driving purpose? Let's take a look at the inner alchemy that's at work here. It really all boils down to this moment. In that sterile ICU, in that void, watching a life end, the author faced a fundamental choice. Be consumed by the grief and the helplessness, which is destruction, or channel it into something else. They chose resolve. They picked up a notebook and they started to write. And you know, there's actually a name for this. It's a powerful psychological concept called flow. You've probably felt it. It's that state of being so completely absorbed in what you're doing that everything else, time, fear, even sorrow, just kind of fades into the background. It's the mechanism that lets us channel that raw, overwhelming emotion into focused, meaningful action. I mean, think about it. The author found it in writing. The famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl found it by mentally composing his work while he was imprisoned in Auschwitz. And during the pandemic, exhausted nurses found it by sketching, processing their trauma through art. In every single one of these cases, a creative act became a lifeline. But it's not just psychology. We can also layer this really fascinating philosophical perspective on top. From Vedantic thought, we get the concept of advitya, or duality. And the idea here is that we shouldn't try to conquer opposites, but instead see them as inseparable parts of a bigger whole. Joy needs sorrow. Life needs death. They're just two sides of the same coin.
And you can see this duality playing out so clearly in the author's own experience. The father's physical body was fading, but his spirit was still lingering. The author's grief was totally overwhelming, and yet it coexisted with their resolve. His last breath wasn't just an end, it became the inspiration for the first verse of a whole new story.
And finally, there's one more piece to this puzzle, and it comes from the Stoics. It's the idea of amor fati, which means to love one's fate. Now, this isn't passive resignation. It's an active choice to embrace everything that happens, the good and the terrible, as a necessary part of your journey. It's about looking at the hand you're dealt and not just accepting it, but choosing to play it with purpose. So, when you put all of that together, the intense focus of flow, the acceptance of duality, and the resolve of amor fati, you get this incredibly powerful force. Creativity becomes like a river. It doesn't fight the chaos, it flows through it, using that very resistance to carve something permanent and beautiful right out of the void. So, okay, what does all this mean for us? This story isn't just about one person's experience, right? It's a blueprint. It's really a call to all of us to find and forge our own resilience when we're faced with the inevitable chaos of life. Here's the bottom line. We get a choice. Those moments of profound helplessness, they will come for all of us. And in those moments, we can either allow them to shatter us, or we can decide to step into the fire and use that heat to forge something even stronger. And so this brings the question right back to you. Seriously, think about it. What are the challenges, the losses, the moments of chaos in your own life? They aren't just scars. They are the very things that have the potential to shape your strength, your creativity, your own unique resilience. And this whole process, it can kind of be broken down into 3 steps. First, you have to face the void, acknowledge the pain and the helplessness without turning away. Second, you channel that pain. Convert that raw emotional energy into a focused creative act. And third, you create your echo. Make something that resonates beyond just yourself, that carries your story forward. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. Don't just endure your hardships, transform them. Let's try to reframe how we see our struggles. Instead of seeing them as just wounds, let's see them as seeds. Because from the deepest cracks, the most beautiful things can grow. Let every wound bloom.